I was playing piano, and a tall figure came up to the window. I had it up against the window, and there's a walkway over there. Came up to the window while I was playing and kind of like peeked in, and then I got up and had taken off. So we're thinking maybe there were just some of our interests kind of aligned with his interests, and
he became obsessed with us.
And he became obsessed,
like, for lack of a better way of explaining it.
Right. But he did tell the detective that our son, because he'd been watching all the kids in the neighborhood, and our son, he had this big stick, right, like a staff almost, that he would place against the side of our house. And what he told the detective was it was God telling him to enter our house because he saw a staff like Moses' staff.
But you had indications he was stalking other families as well?
Yes.
In his notes.
So he writes about, this isn't the first house and we need to go find other houses. He talks about it being an operation. It's hard to tell, like, sort in the notes what's fact and or delusion, or it's but there were houses that people had been going in and out of. We had our neighbor across the street believes that there was a man that just walked into her backyard, and she called security, and he ended up leaving. But in retrospect, she believes that was Ezekiel. And
there was a vacant house next to her house also, and she said that people would go into that home at night.
Oh, yeah. During that week that he was released from prison, somebody went into the vacant house, turned on all the lights, and the police had to come and check it out.
Oh, we called security, and they wouldn't check it out. They called the regular police.
Well, the neighbors did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the police came again. I actually made them search our house again when that happened.
Now, was there any indications, like in the manifesto and these notes and stuff, that he was reporting back to other people?
Yes.
And you've identified those people.
Well, so I have what I think are circumstantial, like it's pretty circumstantial who those, how I found out who those people are, who I believe those people are. But through that, I found some pretty extreme motives that the more information I find out, the more it makes sense. What I haven't done is directly tied Ezekiel specifically to this group. I've tied him to the ideology, but not to the specific group. And that's going to be hard because they're a very secretive group. So.
And you say extreme motives. Can you share that, what those motives would be?
Not at this time.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Now, do you think you're in danger?
I think that there's a huge element of danger to all this. I don't know. I always think that we're being either monitored or watched or something like that. But I think that there are other people in danger, and that's kind of why we're trying to figure out how to tell our story.
Right.
I've written I've written our memoir. Well, not the whole thing. I've written 55,000 words, and I've planned like 75,000 for a memoir. But that's going to I'm going to have to clear that with some people too, and there's going to be a whole vetting process. So getting the story out and the full story out in some details is going to be complicated.
Okay, and you said, Brittany, that somehow he had accessed your video camera and while you were living there, remotely.
Yeah, so it's one comment that I get a lot from people that's really frustrating is they're like, oh my gosh, you guys are idiots, like why didn't you have cameras? So the first thing that I noticed was that my webcam was being remotely accessed. And so it's like, why would I get more cameras when we're being watched through our webcam? But yeah, I know a little bit about computers, and I knew how to go in and look at like what processes were being accessed and like, you know, the different stuff going on the computer. And to me, it looked like somebody was remotely accessing the webcam and, you know, the little light was turning on. So, and it would just be in the middle of the night. Like I would wake up, I have really bad insomnia. I always have. And I'd be awake in the middle of the night and I'd see that little red light pop on at like 2 a.m, or the computer itself, you know, it would be on sleep mode and it would just wake up out of nowhere and the camera would be flipped on.
Now, this fellow Ezekiel, would he have that kind of expertise and be able to track that down?
I really don't know. There's people who have the same name as him online that have computer backgrounds. Maybe they're a different person. Maybe it's him. But, you know, it's just a theory that he would. I have no direct proof that he would. But, yeah, some people with the same name as him do work with computers.
And then there's the aspect, let's say if there's the school of thought, if it's just Ezekiel, then it would have had to be in Ezekiel. If he's working with, if there were other people that were involved, then there could have been people helping out, or, you know, so, and those are, we can't say definitively.
Yeah.
I know the group that I stumbled upon could do that.
Right. Okay.
And yeah.
Here's the thing. We're out of time. Is there anything you want to leave us with?
Well, we just appreciate you having us here, and we hope that your listeners can use this maybe as a cautionary tale. Just stay vigilant. You hear a noise, just check it out. You don't need to freak out, but just go check out the noise and listen to your wife when she tells you there's noises in the house.
Yeah, it's sort of ironic because my whole life I've always been hyper vigilant about keeping doors locked and things like that. And people have always told me that I'm paranoid. And now, you know, when I hear women talk about, you know, feeling like there's something off, or, you know, the women's intuition, I tell them my story and I'm like, hey, I'm not trying to scare you, but this does happen to people. Like, just because it's out there and just because it sounds crazy doesn't mean it is crazy. Always listen to your intuition. Well,
yeah, the Charles Manson cult, they used to call it creepy crawling. They would go into people's houses in the middle of the night and move their furniture around. And one of the guys they did it to, it was the guy who sang that song, The Love Boat, the guy who wrote and sang that song.
Right.
They went into his house and did this. James Campbell and Brittany Campbell, thank you so much. The Evil Dead 2 on TikTok, if you want to follow up on all this. And it's Brittany, Brittany Zane on YouTube. And the show is called Phrogging, Hide Her in My House, but there's only like half of what the story is on there. Guys, keep me posted on this, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks for talking to us.
Well, thanks.
Thank you, guys.